Ferrari's low downforce Silverstone package sounds like the perfect weapon. Less drag, more speed. A car trimmed for attack on one of the fastest circuits of the season. But Ferrari engineers may have found the flaw that turns that weapon into a trap. Because Silverstone does not reward speed alone. It rewards commitment. High-speed stability, tire control, aerodynamic trust, and the confidence to keep the car loaded through corners where even a tiny lift can destroy the lap. And that is where Ferrari's risk becomes terrifying. The source connects this story to a wider technical pressure across the grid, with engine-related retirements, reliability concerns, and teams warning they cannot afford more failures. But does not confirm Ferrari's exact Silverstone downforce level. It does not publish Ferrari's internal engineering data, and it does not officially name the flaw Ferrari found. That uncertainty is the danger, because if Ferrari runs too much downforce, rivals may attack them on the straights. But if Ferrari trims the car too far, the SF26 may lose the one thing Silverstone demands most: trust. A low downforce Ferrari could look fast in the speed traps, but if it slides through the high-speed sections, overheats the tires, and forces the drivers to manage instead of attack, the entire package becomes a trap. So now the question is brutal. Did Ferrari find a bold Silverstone weapon, or did their engineers just discover that the SF26 cannot survive when the downforce is taken away? Subscribe to the channel. To understand why this first block matters, you have to understand the trap hidden inside the words low downforce. Because on paper, low downforce sounds aggressive. It sounds like Ferrari choosing speed. It sounds like the SF26 arriving at Silverstone with less drag, sharper straight-line performance, and a setup designed to stop rivals from attacking too easily when the car is exposed down the fastest parts of the lap. That is the attractive version of the story. Ferrari trims the car. The top speed improves. The drivers gain more protection on the straights. The team looks brave. The package looks efficient. And suddenly, after all the pressure, Ferrari appears ready to fight back. But Silverstone is not a circuit where one simple number tells the truth. Straight-line speed matters, but only after the car survives the corners that lead into the straights. That is why low downforce can be a trap. Because the moment Ferrari takes downforce away, the SF26 has to prove it can still give the driver confidence at high speed. It has to prove the rear stays calm when the car is loaded. It has to prove the front still bites when the driver commits. It has to prove the tires can survive without the extra aerodynamic support protecting them through the fastest sections. And if any of those things fail, the straight line gain becomes an illusion. That is what makes the flaw so scary. Not that Ferrari might be slow. Slow is simple. The scary part is that Ferrari might be fast in the places everyone notices, but weak in the places that actually decide the lap. A car can look impressive through the speed trap and still lose time through the high-speed corners. A car can gain on the straights and still arrive at the braking zone worse off because the exit from a previous corner was compromised. A car can be harder to overtake and still destroy its own tires trying to maintain the pace. That is the hidden compromise. And Silverstone is built to expose it. Because at Silverstone, the driver cannot build a lap by being careful. He has to commit. He has to trust that when he turns in, the car will stay underneath him. He has to trust that the aerodynamic platform will remain stable when the load rises. He has to trust that the rear will not step away just as the corner speed begins to climb. Trust is not emotional here. Trust is performance. A driver who trusts the car carries more speed. A driver who doubts the car leaves margin. And margin at Silverstone is expensive. A tiny lift, a small correction, a delayed throttle input, a slightly wider line. Each one looks harmless by itself, but over a lap they stack up. Over a stint, they become tire damage. Over a race, they become strategy pain. That is why Ferrari engineers would be worried if the low downforce package creates instability. Because instability does not stay in one corner. It spreads. If the rear is nervous, the driver protects it on entry. If the driver protects it on entry, the car may miss rotation. If the car misses rotation, the driver waits to apply throttle. If the driver waits on throttle, the straight line speed advantage starts later than expected. And suddenly, the low drag car is not using its low drag properly. The theory looked good. The lap does not. That is the cruel part of Formula One setups. A change that improves the car in one phase can quietly damage two others. Less downforce may give Ferrari speed at the end of the straight, but it may reduce confidence at the beginning of the straight. It may help maximum velocity, but hurt corner exit. It may help overtaking defense but hurt tire life. It may make the car look bold but make the driver cautious. And a cautious driver at Silverstone is already losing. Not because the driver is weak, because the car is asking too much. That is why this story cannot be judged by the phrase low downforce alone. The real question is whether the SF26 has the aerodynamic stability to survive being trimmed out. Some cars can do it. They have a strong platform. They can run lower wing levels and still keep the balance alive. They can reduce drag without making the rear nervous. They can protect the tires because the car's airflow remains consistent and the driver does not have to slide the car to make a turn. Those cars are dangerous. They are efficient. They are adaptable. They give engineers options. But a car that needs downforce to hide its weaknesses is different. Take downforce away and the weakness appears. The rear starts moving. The front becomes inconsistent. The tires work harder. The driver begins correcting. The lap becomes messy. That is what Ferrari must fear. Because if the SF26 needs more downforce simply to feel stable, then a low downforce package is not a weapon, is a stress test. And Silverstone is the worst possible place to fail that test. This is where the wider technical pressure across the grid becomes important. The source connects this story to engine-related retirements, reliability concerns, and teams warning they cannot afford more failures. That matters because modern Formula One is not just about being brave. It is about choosing the kind of risk you can survive. Red Bull has seen how quickly technical problems can damage momentum. Mercedes has faced pressure around reliability concerns and retirements. Across the grid, teams know one aggressive decision can turn into a weekend of consequences. Ferrari is facing its own version of that. Not necessarily an engine failure, not necessarily a retirement, something more subtle but still dangerous. A performance risk, a package that may give speed but take away stability. And performance risks can hurt a team without breaking the car. The Ferrari may finish the race. It may look mechanically healthy. It may even show strong speed at certain points. But if the drivers are managing instability, if the tires are overheating, if the pace fades, the result can still be damaging. A car does not have to stop to fail. Sometimes it fails by forcing the driver to drive below the limit. That is the fear. Because Silverstone rewards cars that allow confidence. The fastest laps there are not built on survival. They are built on commitment. The driver attacks the fast sections with the feeling that the car is planted, the balance is predictable, and the tires can handle the load. If Ferrari's low downforce package takes that away, the drivers will know immediately. Before the data is complete. Before the engineers finish comparing runs. Before the fans understand the sector times. The driver will feel it. He will feel whether the car is light through the fastest sections. He will feel whether the rear is moving too early. He will feel whether the front still responds cleanly. He will feel whether the tires are being punished. And that feedback will shape the whole weekend. If the drivers say the car is fast but nervous, Ferrari has a problem. If they say the balance is difficult in high speed, Ferrari has a problem. If they say the tires are hard to keep under control, Ferrari has a problem. Because those comments will tell rivals where to attack. That is another hidden danger. A setup flaw is not private once it appears on track. Rivals watch the car. They listen to the drivers. They compare sector times. They look at speed traps. They study long runs. They ask whether Ferrari is gaining on the straights but losing through the corners. And if they identify the trade-off, they can race against it. They can force Ferrari into tire management. They can pressure the drivers through high-speed sections. They can shape strategy around the fade. They can attack at the moments where the low downforce choice becomes most fragile. That is why Ferrari must not only find speed, it must hide weakness. A strong package gives rivals less to target. A flawed package tells rivals exactly where to look. That is why engineers fear these decisions. Because a low downforce setup is not just a choice for one session. It becomes a statement about the car's range. Range is one of the most underrated qualities in Formula One. A car with range can adapt. It can run more wing at one circuit and less at another. It can protect tires when needed, then trim drag when the track demands it. It can stay balanced across different conditions, fuel loads, tire states, and wind directions. A car without range is trapped. It may be fast only in one setup window. It may need more downforce than rivals to feel stable. It may lose too much performance when trimmed out. It may force the team into compromises that make every weekend harder than it should be. That is the deeper test for the SF26. not whether Ferrari can bolt on a low downforce package. Any team can reduce wing. The test is whether the car still behaves like a Ferrari should when that downforce is removed. Does it still rotate? Does it still protect the rear tires? Does it still let the driver attack? Does it still hold balance through fast corners? Does it still give confidence in the exact places Silverstone demands it? Those are the questions engineers will have been asking before the weekend even begins. And if they found a scary flaw, the flaw may be that the answers were not clean. Maybe the simulations showed straight-line improvement, but the balance margins became thin. Maybe the package looked efficient, but the high-speed stability became sensitive. Maybe the long-run model suggested tire stress would rise. Maybe the drivers would need to manage more than the team wanted. Maybe the car became too dependent on perfect conditions. The source does not provide Ferrari's private technical data, so the exact flaw cannot be stated as fact. But the risk is clear. A low downforce Silverstone package only works if the car remains trustworthy. If it does not, Ferrari has created a problem that looks fast until the circuit asks for commitment. That is why the first practice laps would be so important. Ferrari would need to learn quickly whether the package is real or risky. Short runs would show the speed. Long runs would show the truth, because short runs can flatter a low downforce car. Fresh tires cover instability. Low fuel hides some balance problems. A single lap can be forced. A driver can tolerate a nervous car for one attempt if the reward is enough. But race pace is different. A race stint exposes the cost. If the car slides, the tires heat. If the tires heat, the grip drops. If the grip drops, the car slides more. That loop can destroy a low downforce gamble. It turns aggression into degradation. And once degradation starts, strategy becomes defensive. Ferrari cannot afford that, because a low downforce package that destroys tire life creates a strategic nightmare. The team might gain positions with straight-line speed, but lose them through early tire wear. It might defend well for a few laps, then fall away. It might look hard to pass in one phase, then become vulnerable when the tires fade.